Good morning, traders. We're just going to have a quick look through at three of my favorite currency pairs just to see what's going on, because it is starting to look a little bit boring. But as we all know, when things are looking quite boring and have been moving sideways, we very often have quite a nice breakout happening. If we have a look at the British pound versus the US dollar, we can see that it's hit a consolidation phase where it's been ranging between these two price levels. Let's get the lower one in. It's been ranging between these two levels for quite some time. You know, came down, here we go on the 3rd, that's what, like a week and a half ago already. And it's just been sitting at this level. And the pound has taken quite a hammering against the US dollar from back here. Now, the news that's come out of the pound recently has not been great, but it was expected to be quite poor. So that's why we didn't see this sort of breaking out any lower than before. We have some news coming out of the US dollar, which we are expecting to be good. And if it does remain good, then we could see this consolidation phase continuing. However, whenever we see this sort of consolidation landing for quite some time, we do start expecting a breakout. So what I'm personally doing is I've marked down these two lines that it's been ranging in, and I'm waiting for the news to come out, and it needs to be significantly different to what's expected, and then we should see a direction picking up. This is a kind of trade where it could be going up or it could be going down. Obviously, I guess most trades are like that, but we are waiting for it to kind of break out of this ranging pattern that's been going on for quite some time. This would be a great entry for a long-term trade. If you're trading the scalping systems and we're looking down at, like, say, the 15-minute time frame, we can see that things aren't a lot better. There has been some room to trade inside. We can see it's about 150, 160 pips. Yeah, 160 pips. So it has been possible to grab some scalps, but there hasn't been any massive movement. So for now, on the pound dollar, I'm personally not scalping on this one. I'm waiting for it to break out of here and then start giving us new highs or lows, and then we can take it from there. If we go and have a look at the Aussie dollar, we can see a very similar sort of pattern. You can see it started coming down at about the same time as the British pound, just a little bit later. And this is indicative that the US dollar has been strengthening. If we start seeing the charts following the same pattern and we've got the US dollar on the right hand side, then it's generally because the US dollar has been doing quite well. However, we have seen some bigger movements within the curve. If we look at the same sort of area, trying to pick up a range, you see it's not really quite as possible, because even this low is pretty far away from where this low is here. You're looking at 68. If we look at the total amount of pips, it is very similar to the pound dollar, but inside it hasn't been moving as smoothly as it has inside the pound dollar here. But because we are seeing the same sort of formation forming on the pound dollar, I'm going to be sitting and waiting on this one as well. We're going to be looking for sort of a breakout strategy, but if I were to do some scalps, I'd be more likely to scalp on the Aussie US dollar, purely because it doesn't look like it's getting as squashed and the consolidation phase isn't as firm as it is on the pound dollar. If we switch over to the euro dollar, we can see a very similar pattern happening here as well. Let's just compare with the pound dollar. We can see it fell, let's just call it between the equidistant channel and the arrows. The Aussie dollar came a little bit after that. We had some consolidation at about the same point. And the euro dollar, we can see it started coming down from here. It did come back a bit, but then fell all the way down again. So we're looking at the same sort of shape, but this one is not showing us any sort of range that's happening. Maybe in this point, a range is forming, but we haven't had enough sideways movement to confirm that it is an actual range. So this is confirming that the US dollar is doing better, because it seems to be gaining against the pound, the Australian dollar, and the euro at the same time. Now, we know that the euro and the pound is somewhat linked, although with Brexit and all these negotiations going on, they are diverging a lot more. But the Australian dollar is quite separate from the rest, and it's usually kind of linked to the US dollar like every other currency is. So again, with the euro dollar, to be safe, and this is only based on the fact that I can see the range forming on the other pairs, is I will be looking for it to move outside of this range as well. I'm more comfortable scalping on the euro dollar. As we'll see here, we have about 180 pips range, so that's more than enough room. And by looking at the 4 hour, we can see that we have had a nice formation coming down, and it hasn't stuck inside a range, so there has been more movement. It does look like that it went up. We had a bit of a bullish trend, but because this line at the point where it is now has broken the recent low, I would consider trading short positions of the euro dollar, but I would wait for the US dollar news to be coming out later. Long story short, we are setting ourselves up for a nice big fat long-term trade by watching these different currencies. So go ahead, load up the euro dollar, Aussie dollar, pound dollar on your charts, find these points, put them in, and watch the news and wait for it to cross the line. Once it crosses the line, we can then make a decision if we're going to jump on that market and start trading it, and hopefully we'll get one of those big fat trades that we can hold for about 2 weeks.